Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's developer coaching webinar. My name is Tara Van Cleve, and I'm part of the database organization here at Oracle. And today we're excited to show you how to build a user-friendly app that makes it easy for anyone to get the most out of Select AI from scratch. I'd also like to note that we are recording the webinar, and you'll receive the replay via the same email you registered with after the event concludes. If you have any questions, we've enabled the Q&A section of the Zoom and we'll answer throughout the hour as well as leave some time at the end for any remaining open questions. Today's webinar will be presented by Pete Madura, Principal Cloud Architect. So without further ado, Pete, over to you to take it away.
Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. I appreciate you taking a little time out of your day. As you see on the title, we are going to show you how in Apex to really build Select AI profiles quickly, manage them, and test them. So most of today is actually going to be watching me build an Apex app. Based on the title and based on, just me coming up with this cloud coaching session, I've worked with a number of customers that are using Select AI, and I realized that, everyone had a little trouble creating the profiles within there. So that's what this is really all about today. A few kind of notes that I want everyone to start up with. I'm going to go quick. Everything I'm showing today is obviously going to be recorded, and all of the artifacts, including the Apex app, is going to be available for download in a GitHub repo that we're going to post when this video posts online. So I really want everyone just to kind of sit back, see what I'm doing, and hopefully it opens their kind of minds to what can be done with these Select AI profiles and how Apex can help you. So jumping into the agenda, I'm going to just do a quick review of Select AI and the actions that it produces in the Oracle Autonomous AI database. We're going to go over the components of a Select AI profile, really, because that's what we're going to have Apex build for us dynamically. I'm going to demo an app that I've already built just to show you what we're going to build today. And then I'm going to try to build it from scratch. And hopefully, if everything goes well and my timing works, we're going to get through the whole build today. But like I said, if we don't, the entire app will be available for download on GitHub. All right. So the real premise of this is to build an Apex front end to manage the creation of your Select AI profile, to manage that profile, including viewing the attributes of the profile and dropping it, to be able to obviously run the profile, to be able to ask questions and use the different available actions within there, and then review the profile. And what I mean by that is get feedback on it, and understand if the responses are making sense to your end users, right? So those are kind of like the four building blocks of the Apex app that we're going to build today. Before we jump into the demo of the app, I'm just going to quickly kind of go over what Select AI is used for and how we're going to be using it today. So these are available on our autonomous databases, where there is our autonomous AI database serverless, our dedicated, or our cloud at customer. With Select AI, it allows you a very easy way to talk to your data in your database using natural language. And there are 5 different built-in responses that the Select AI feature provides you. First is the run SQL action. This will literally provide you the answers back in a JSON format. And we're going to see examples of all this throughout today. The next one is the show SQL, right? It's actually going to, based on your question, it's going to provide the SQL that you can then analyze and, of course, run if you want to. Narrate is going to give you the closest thing to a natural language response because it's just going to be a little bit more formatted, less SQL based, and just more easier to digest. Chat is one of the few features that it doesn't utilize your data. That is just one action or mode that allows you to just send any prompt, and you're really utilizing the knowledge of the large language model, and you're not really sending your data through there. So it is a nice option. We're not going to be focused on that too much today. And then, of course, the explain SQL. So not only will it generate the SQL based on your prompt, it will explain how the SQL is actually assembled. So that's really good for complex SQL statements or people maybe new to SQL and they don't quite understand why it joined how it did or how the joins even occur if there are joins. So those are the modes that we're going to be working on today. And this is one of the things when we run these, we're going to be dynamically being able to run any of these off of custom built profiles. Next, I just want to take a second and talk about a Select AI profile. This is at the core of Select AI. Now, if anyone has, and hopefully many of you have already utilized Select AI in the Oracle Autonomous AI database, you're not even typically, you're doing this through a PL SQL block, and it has different attributes and of course syntax, right? And this it does not show all the available attributes. We will be putting a link to the documentation that shows you all the available attributes. But by the end of today, you're going to see if you want to utilize an extra attribute or add an extra one to your profile through this app, it will be easy. And just some of them to talk about is like the profile name, right? That's how we're going to reference the profile. Who's the provider? The provider could be an OCI on-demand large language model. It could be another third-party one that we're not hosting, but that you can still connect to. So we have a whole range of providers that you can utilize their large language models with this service. Of course, we need credentials. Credentials are what authenticate you to be able to access and utilize the model. And then the object list. This was always one of the trickiest things to put together because obviously it has to be exact. And the more objects or tables you had in your profile, the harder it was to kind of put together. Now, there are a few other attributes here like region, endpoint, model, of course, that we're going to be utilizing in our model or in our profile. But I'm going to show you how to dynamically build this profile through an Apex app and then, of course, manage it, run it, and even get feedback on it. So that's really the basis of today's session. So with that, I want to get right into it and I want to quickly demo the app that I'm going to build so you can get a real sense of what this is capable of. Let me close that out and I am going to. All right. So this is my Select AI Manager, right? Not a lot to it. There's actually only one main page within here. But I see, as I said before, we're going to break it down into 4 sections. 1, create the profile. I built a little method to be able to select one or more objects in your Apex workspace schema. And then, of course, add some of the other information in here, like models, select a credential, give it a name, and maybe even send comments. And I'll talk about a little bit what comments means for those that are unaware. And then this button right here is going to generate that profile for you immediately, right? So we're not actually ever going to be using PL SQL once this is done. The application itself will be generating all the PL SQL for us. Next is to manage the profile. So in this one app, I have one profile built, and here's the profile metadata. I'm going to introduce you to a few database views that hold all this metadata for you that are built in and is part of the database. And then, of course, when it comes to maintenance, currently you cannot update a profile after it's been created. So that means your really only option is to drop the profile, and I'm going to give you a little button to be able to actually drop profiles. Now, the other reason why I want to build this is because customers always ask me, what model should I use? That depends. And really, what I like to tell them is start with the cheaper, quicker models. If you're getting good results, great. If you aren't getting the results you're looking for, then, then potentially try a different model. Try maybe a little bit stronger model. And this platform allows you to create as many profiles as you want, and then, of course, be able to test them and allow the users to utilize all of them. And then again, once you're getting feedback, right, you're going to know which models are giving better responses. And your consumers are part of this process that could be utilizing this. So this is all about the management of your profiles to basically view the attributes of them and drop it. Then we get to the run the profile, right? We want to be able to ask questions against any selected profile, right? In a few minutes, we're going to have a bunch of profiles in here. We're going to want to ask questions. We're going to want to be able to select the action. Remember, we just talked about those in the PowerPoint. What type of response do we want Select AI to provide us? You're looking at an example of a narrate response. See how it's kind of in natural language? It was based off of this question. And then once you get your response, well, we want to provide the consumer a way to basically say, yeah, that was a good response, or no, that was a bad response. So we're going to capture the question, and then we're going to allow the users to basically thumbs up and thumbs down it. And once they do that, we go to our last section and we can review the profile, right? Which profiles are people using the most? Who's using them? What are the feedback counts for them? What was the prompt? What was the result? What was the action? Who created it? What was the feedback? Because sometimes maybe you're not using the right model. Sometimes, I hate to say it, but the prompt is not good. Sometimes maybe they are asking questions and the elements or tables are not included in the profile. Like, for example, someone could ask a question about profit, but if you don't have profit as far as one of your objects in your profile, well, that maybe is just a training and letting the consumers know that. So there's lots of reasons on, why we want to get the feedback and why the feedback might be good or bad. And there are different tasks we can take based on that. So we're gonna attempt to build this app in the next 30 minutes or so. And like I said, you're gonna be able to. This app is a little bit more polished. I'm not gonna be able to maybe polish it as cleanly during the build right now, but you're gonna be able to download this for your purposes once we post this video. So before I do this, and just for anyone that is doing this for the first time in an Apex workspace, there are a few prerequisites that I've already done, not only for this app, but just to work with Select AI. I'm going to go to my Apex SQL commands, and I have some saved SQL just to kind of show you. To utilize Select AI in a workspace, you need to have an admin grant you some privileges to these two packages, DBMS Cloud and DBMS Cloud AI, right? So you have to basically have the admin grant those to your workspace ID or your workspace name. You need to have credentials, right? And again, I'll have directions and all this on the GitHub, but essentially there is a function that will create a credential for you. Again, that's going to authenticate you to utilize these models. And again, this credential is going to use OCI on-demand models. And then, of course, there's the ability to drop credentials just for cleanup after the fact. I've already done all this. I already have a credential. If I run this really quickly, there's my OCI credential, so it exists. So it's already been built. I've already been granted access to these packages. So that means with that out of the way, we can start the build. And also, there are 3 tables associated with this app. I'm going to give you the scripts to create and populate them, but I just want to show you that really quickly. Create app objects. So I created a table to hold my models, right? And then I load the models. Now, these models, if you've been working with large language models, you know they have a shelf life of like 6 to 18 months. So, I've looked at ones that are currently in there and I've got a different sampling of them. So again, if you're going to use this method, you just have to maintain that these models eventually will get deprecated, then you change these out, but these are current ones in there. I created a select AI actions table, right? And these are just the 5 actions: explain, narrate, run, show, chat, just to make it easy. And then I created a table to capture the feedback, basically to capture the prompts and allow users to do, basically thumbs up, thumbs down, right? So I will include this script again in the GitHub so you can just kind of run all this and then you'll have all the objects available to start the build. All right, so I'm going to keep those open in case I need those a little bit later. I'm going to go back to my app builder and we are going to start creating our app. So, and I'm looking at the time. That means 12:15 for me. That gives me about a good 30, 35 minutes to build this. Let's see what I can do. We are going to call this our Cloud Coaching Select AI Manager. I'm going to use the App Wizard, and I'm only using the App Wizard just so I can change the authentication easily. And we're going to create. All right, there's our app. Let's just run it, make sure we can get into it. Perfect. All right, so we have an app, it's up and running. Now, in this app, we're only going to use the home page, right? I wanted to simplify it for today's purposes. So we're just going to go right into the home page, and we are going to start our build. For those that are seeing my development, I always keep my properties on the left-hand side. So if you think it looks weird, most times the properties by default go on the far right. It's a little bit easier for me when I have them right here next to my the tree structure over here of all my objects. So let's begin. First, we want to add a region. And then I'm going to add a couple subregions, and I'm going to duplicate these. And the first one is we're just going to call this our create profile region. These ones, I'm going to say step 1, and I'm going to give it just a little bit of text. And I'm just copying from my other screen. It's going to give it a little header text. Step 2, add a little header text. And then step 3. Again, just a little header text to make the app look a little bit nicer. And on all 3 of these, I'm going to remove the header, and I'm going to remove the UI decoration. And on the top region, I'm going to make this collapsible. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so we've got our first section started, our create profile region, and we have a couple subregions where we're going to drop our pieces in there. So let's go back. Under step 1, we want to add a page item. This is going to be our shuttle. So for our shuttle, we are going to call this P1 select objects. And let me get the SQL for that. We're going to make this a column span of 6. And of course, for list of values, I'm just doing SQL queries because we don't have time to do list of values. Of course, if you are going to productionize this and, if you use a dropdown more than once, you definitely want to use a list of values. For these purposes, we're just going to use the select query or SQL query. Save and run it. All right. So again, all I'm doing, that SQL statement said, grab all the tables from the current owner or schema, right? So you can do lots of different things here. And if your workspace has access to other schemas, you could, of course, change that SQL. But this one is dedicated to just tables right now that are sitting within this workspace schema. Let's make sure the shuttle works. All right, so not a lot of tables in there, but I wanted to keep it simple. Step 2, let's start adding some of our fields. So I'm going to add a page item here. And the first one is going to be the models. I want this to be a select 1. And I've already told you about I created a model table. So once again, we're going to come down to SQL query, paste in our SQL. Again, all I'm doing is querying the model display name and the model name from my select AI OCI models table. Just make sure that validates. Good. I'm going to create another page item. This one will be for the creds, right? Because you need, and of course, this could be hard coded if you don't need to switch between creds, but I'm also going to do select 1. We are going to grab the SQL to view your credentials. So this, if you weren't aware, this is how you query user credentials. And again, they are always located in a workspace. So let's go ahead. That validates. Good. Next page item. This is going to be our profile name. We'll just keep it a text field as is. Call it profile name. This one is going to be profile description. This is an optional field, but it's probably pretty good to use, especially as you begin. It's just nice to have, give you a little more context of what the profile is meant to do. We're going to create another page item. This one's going to be our compartment. Now, the Select AI profile requires a compartment within there. And then we just go grab that. And I'm just going to put this as a default right now. And see if I can find that. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to have to grab that in a minute. I must have not put it in my notes. So I'll come back to the compartment. But basically, we are going to put a default in there. Oh, I think I have it right here. Got it. So we're going to go down to default, static, put my compartment in there. And we are going to hide this one, right? We don't need the users to see this. So we're going to make this a hidden field. Next, we want to potentially add comments. And I'm going to talk about comments in a minute. So this is going to be our comments object. We want to be a radio button or a radio group. I want 2 columns. And we're going to basically say send comments. And I'm just going to do some static values. So this attribute is looking for basically a true or a false. But I'm going to go to display. I'm going to say yes. And then false. And I'm going to put a default value of false. Down in default, static false. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at that, make sure we did that and see how it looks. All right, so we got our models. All right, that drop down works. So it is pulling from our model table. Our creds are working. Profile name are just free-form fields. Our send comment radio buttons. Now, send comments is an amazing way to improve your results. You can go into your database objects, and if you add column level comments to your tables or views, and you say you want to send them to the large language model, they think of them like synonyms or just other ways to help out the large language model understand what your columns really mean and what they are doing. So it's a really powerful feature and really easy to do to go and add a comment, especially within Apex, to add a comment to a column. So I highly advise everyone, if you're going to go through this process, add some comments to the tables that you're going to utilize here. All right, so those are all the fields that I think we want. And now we just need to add a generate button. So first, I am just going to do the column span a little bit shorter. We don't need that much room for those. On step 3, we're going to create a button. All right. We are going to call this button build. And we'll call it generate profile. We'll make it a hot button. And we want to turn off execute validations. All right. So before we want to add the code to it, I also want to know, well, we want to make sure that when we create a profile that it is there. So just before I add the build logic, which we're going to take a minute to go through, I'm going to start my next region, right? And this region is the manage profile region. And in here, I'm just going to quickly create a subregion, and I'm going to make it a classic report. And I want this region just to be able to show me my profiles that exist. This here is one of those database views, right? User Cloud AI profiles. Let's make sure it validates. So this will pull me all the profiles that are sitting in this schema. So let's go ahead, save, run this. Okay, so we haven't added the logic to the generate profile button yet, but we can see there. All right, so we now know that query is correct. The query is showing our profiles. So if we built this correctly, if we generate a new one right now, that should populate down there. So let's try that. So now this is where I think it's really easy to create these profiles, because I can create a profile now and I can say I want sales, time, product, and maybe customers. Right? Now, the key to this is if you don't only need one object. You don't need more than one object. If you use more than one object in the Select AI profile, you better make sure they have foreign keys, right? Because if the system can't figure out how to make the joins, you won't get good results. All of these do have sales happens to be my fact table and it has foreign keys to these other tables. So there is a little bit of knowledge that you're going to know when you make these profiles. You're going to, again, you're just going to want to make sure that they have clear join paths and the columns are named uh, accurately to allow the system to produce the best joins. Now, first, let's pick a model. I'll do the Meta Llama. I'll pick my cred. And the way I like to name these is, all right, this is my sales profile. I'm using the Meta model, and this is maybe my V1.0, right? Because remember, you're doing this to build a bunch of profiles to test to see which model works best against them. And here's my first model. And if I did everything correctly, this should generate a profile. Oh, we didn't add the logic to the generate profile yet. So that's the next step. So we have all that information there. So now let's go to the processing step to make this button actually do something. So I'm going to come over here. We know we have our button right here, our build button, right? So we're going to create a process. Now I'm actually going to use what's called an execution chain. An execution chain is nothing but like a folder or an object that holds other processes. Because in this one process, I want to run two different processes. So I'll show you how this works. I'm going to say an execution chain, and I'm going to tie that chain. I'm going to say build profile, and I'm going to tie it to that build button, right? We only want to fire when the build button's hit. And then I'm going to create a child process. This is where we're going to add that logic. So let me get over to my logic here, and I want to take a minute to explain how this works. All right. This is the code. Let's make sure it validates. Good. This is the script, this PL/SQL block that is going to write and create the profile. Now, I want to give a little shout out to my colleague Shane J. Wardine, who also happens to be on the Q&A right now. He introduced me to this Apex JSON set of APIs that comes with the platform. Very powerful, very perfect for my needs here. And really what we're doing is this Apex JSON has a bunch of functions that allow you to work, manipulate, and write JSON files very cleanly and easily. So really, walking you through this, we have declared two variables up here. We are just going to initialize the Apex JSON object. We're going to open it, and then we're going to write, this just writes one line at a time. So I'm hard coding some of this. My provider is OCI. I've hard coded a region, right? So this might be an area you might want to have this as a dropdown and pass this in here from the front end. Compartment, well, we already know that the compartment's coming from the page. The creds are coming from the page. The model is coming from the page. Whether we're sending comments are coming from the page. Now, like I said, there are more attributes to select AI profiles than this. So if you want to add and incorporate another aspect or attribute, you just have to add this out, build this out a little bit. Then we need to basically loop through all these objects that we've selected and create that object list in the format that the profile is expecting. So we do that by opening an array. And it starts because the object list is the name of the attribute the select AI profile is looking for. And then essentially we're looping through all the objects in that P1 select objects. That's just this object right here. We're going to loop through them. We already have the delimiter in there. We set that delimiter when we built it. And this is going to loop through them and write that little JSON file sitting in the profile. Now, every one of these needs an owner, and then, of course, the name, and we're getting the name from the object here. So we're basically opening the object, closing the loop, closing the array, closing the upper object, and then from there, we're just assigning the clob output from the Apex JSON function to our variable. This frees the memory. So again, from a memory perspective, this is a good little function to use. I've added it in case I needed to debug, right? So that will show up on my debugger. But really, This is what's creating the profile. All this work up here is just populating this VJSON object for our attributes. Again, the profile name and the description are coming right from the front end. So again, all of this will be available in the app when you download it. So this will all be there. Obviously, you might have to change some schema names and stuff like that. But we're going to say OK. And this is really the build. And I'm going to add one more quick process under here just to clear the session state after I do the build. All right, so remember, this execution chain is tied to the run build button, and anything underneath it will just run sequentially. That's where these execution chains really come in handy. Because in the past, you would have had to tie this build button to each one of these individually. All right, let's go ahead and save and run that. And if I did everything correctly, this should generate a new profile called Sales Meta V1. Moment of truth. There we go. Sales Meta V1. So the profile was created, it was accepted. It is now, again, being queried by using that database view. And of course, the session state I cleared to kind of just clear out my profile section. So great. Part one is done. I just gave you a way to easily create profiles using all of your different available tables with different models, with different creds. And of course, you can just name them differently for different testing purposes. So from now, let's go work on our manage profile section, section 2. So I'm going to come back to my build, my create profile. I'm actually just going to make this collapsible and have it collapsed automatically. I'm going to make my manage profile also collapsible, but I'll keep it open by default. And now what I want to do here is first I want the users, because we're going to have more than one profile. So we need the users to be able to select different profiles. So let me just look at my notes. And we want to create a sub-region here. I'm going to move that up here. We're going to want to create a page item. So this sub-region, we're probably going to hide after. And this is actually, we'll call this view profiles. And this region, we want to make this a radio group. And this is going to hold our profiles. So I'm just going to name this view profile. And when we select it, we do want it to submit the page. Now, for those Apex experts out there, this is not going to be the cleanest app. There's going to be a few more submit pages that you would actually want probably in production. But I think you get the sense of it. You can take it and, of course, take it and clean it up as you need. And now we want to get our profiles. And that should do it. So this should give us a nice little radio button of our different profiles there. So let's save and run. There we go, our view profiles, right? So now we want to build a slightly better report to get the rest of the attributes for us based on when we select one of these profiles over here. So for this view profiles, I am now going to say this is going to be my profile attributes. I want my view profiles to the left of my profile attributes. Within my profile attributes, again, I have my classic report, but I have a slightly better SQL statement that now includes the second database view. So remember, the first one is user cloud AI profiles. The second one is user cloud AI profile attributes. And I'm just going to target based on the one they select. That works. Great. Let's just test that out. And actually, before I do, I'm going to make the view profiles region about 3. Okay, so our manage profile section, we have our view profiles, and there we go. It's now filtering our classic report. So here is a great way to, again, what is the model made out of, right? You get to see these are the objects I built. And you could actually even do some JSON, parse JSON in here to get that even in a nicer list if you wanted to of all the object list. But it's giving you the rest of the information that you used. And again, like I said at the beginning, you cannot edit an existing profile at the moment. The only way to really work with it is you can create and drop, right? So hopefully one day we have that feature where we can just update a profile. But since we can't, we need to be able to drop these, right? So I want to create a quick little drop button for this to kind of wrap up the manage profile section. So let's go back home. Let's go to profile attributes. Let me collapse some of these. We are going to have a button. And really, I want this button on the copy portion of my profile attributes. So we're going to call this button drop. We can say drop profile. I don't want to execute validations at the moment. And we're going to need a process for this. So let's go ahead and create a process. This is going to be drop profile. And then we go get my drop profile. Here we go. I'll open this up so you can see it. It's very straightforward. Again, DBMS Cloud AI, drop profile, and really all you're passing in is the profile name, which we're going to select from our view profile. Let's make sure that runs. Success. And of course, we need to tie this to the drop button. All right, that should do it. Save and run. There's our drop profile. We'll make it hot after, but let's go ahead and let's get rid of our Grok Mini. There we go. Grok Mini is gone. I might put a warning in there, a little confirmation or something. But right now, you've got a good drop button that now will drop that profile forever. So very easy. I'm going to come back here. Before I forget, I'm just going to make that button hot. And now we now know how to manage, meaning the manage really is all about the viewing of the attributes, what profiles exist, and the ability to drop them right from the front end. So now we get to kind of more the fun part. We get to run them. So we're now going to create our third section, create region. This is going to be our run profile section. Okay. So one thing we want to do, and again, when you have this application in your hands, feel free to do with what you want. I'm making this easy on myself, and this view profile, I'm going to duplicate, and I want it down here, just because I want my own separate radio button down here for the run profile. And I'm going to actually call that select profile, right? We still wanted a radio group. This is going to be select profile. We don't want it to do a submit page on this one. And that should be good. And so that's our run profile. So that's going to allow us to select the profile. Next, we're going to want the prompt, right? Okay, so first is which model are we using to run? Next is the prompt. And actually, then we go back to the other built one out, just so you can see it, right? We have our select profile. We need to build a prompt. We need to build a button that does the actual executes the select AI. We want to add all of our actions, and then we need a response area, obviously, to display the actions. And then once we get all that working, we're going to add the thumbs up, thumbs down for feedback. So let's come back here. So the next one is another page item, and this is our prompt, right? So this is just going to be our P1 prompt. We are going for a label. We're going to say our ask your question. Now we're going to want a results, right? So another page item. We're going to call this one P1 results. And we're going to make this a display only. And I like doing the display only here because I get to switch it to Markdown. And when you see the responses come down in Markdown, it's much nicer. Not to mention the responses usually come in a form of Markdown anyways. So we have if we look over here in the layout, we get to select our profile, we get to have our prompt, we get to have our results, but we still need a button to run the prompt. And then, of course, we're going to test that out, and then we're going to add our different actions. So let's add a button. And this button, I want right over here to the right of my prompt, right? So we are going to call this our run button. And we'll label it with just as ask. We'll make it hot. We don't want it to execute validations. And we've already done it. Okay, so now we need to add the process to make this button run. Back to processes. We're going to create a new one. On this one, I am going to need another execution chain because I'm actually going to run two separate processes. So we're going to say execution chain. And this is basically the run process. I'm going to tie it before I do anything else to the run button. Then I'll create a child. So this will be the run. And let me go get my code. And when you're running it in Apex, all you need to do is run this command. So you're saying select DBMS Cloud AI, generate. I'm passing in the prompt from the front end, right? I'm passing in the profile selected. Right for this one, I've hard-coded an action just to see if it works, right? That's one of the action types. And then I want to insert that into my P1 results. Okay, good, validates. Let's go ahead, save and run that. And if this works, then we'll make it dynamic that you can add and select any of the actions. Okay, so we can select a profile. I can say, very simple, just to see if it works. What years are available in my profile? Now, this is doing the run SQL action. Oh, all right. Sometimes I've noticed I run it just one more time. There we go. I get a better response. It's almost it needs to warm up sometimes. So I get a response. That's kind of the run SQL method. But now we want to have it so we can select any of the actions within here. So under the prompt, I'm going to create a page item below. This is going to be a radio group. Let's see. We're going to call this P1 action. We actually want 5 columns because I want them to be on one row. We don't want the page actions to do anything. And we're going to populate the SQL query with, oops, added a little too much. Get rid of that. So we're just selecting our action names from our select AI action table. Validates. So again, we did 5 columns here. So they should look pretty nicely. And then if that run, we'll just save and run. And if that works, then we just have to update. Oh, there we go. So nice and neat and clean right there. So this ask button, remember, is still hard coded. So now when we run this ask button, we're going to pass in what they've selected here. So for the action, I'm also just going to put a quick default in there. And it's just going to be the show SQL, just so there's always a value in there. Let's go back to our run process. And let me go grab that. And really, the only difference is instead of run SQL, because it was hard coded, we're going to say action. That's it. So we're just now substitute it, made it a little bit more dynamic. Save and run. Now let's do a narrate. Um, and let's say, what are my top three selling products from 1999? Sorry, old data set here. And I just want to narrate it for me. All right, top selling products from 1999 are. Now, here's the beautiful thing with this. First of all, if you go to the manage profile, you can see I have time in my in products and sales, right? So it connected all those, right? I didn't do any joins. The foreign keys, the Select AI figures it out, the joins, because I have nice foreign keys in there. And let's just do one more. Let's do the show SQL. Actually, I'll do the explain SQL so you can see that one. And so while this is running, again, what we need now to do is to give the feed, well, we need to capture the response and then provide a feedback mechanism with the thumbs up, thumbs down buttons. So look at right here. When I say explain SQL, it gives you the SQL and then explains how it was put together. The beauty of this is, we all hear about, LLMs and helping us with code assist. I can take that. I should be able to come over here, paste it. There are my three values, right? Total sales. So it depends on what you want to give the user. Some users are going to want more of the narrate, and other ones are going to want the SQL. So that's why it's got multiple purposes and very powerful. All right, so we want to quickly capture all of these to be able to track, audit, see who's using it. So I'm going to add another process here, and let's see. Let me grab this. And all we're going to do is say basically, we're going to call this one audit. All right, so all we're doing is basically, hey, we're adding stuff into our Select AI feedback table that we previously created. We're adding the user, the prompt, the results, the profile, the action. And then we're going to return it into this object that doesn't exist yet, P1 audit, because we want to return the ID. So then we can make it easy to do thumbs up, thumbs down. So I'm just going to say OK. And I'm going to quickly come in here. And we're going to hide this after, this P1 audit. But that's going to hold the audit ID. So let's save and run this, see if it works. And let's just do a quick little narrate. And so it should also be getting the response. It should, oh, look at that, audit 21, right? So if I go to my object browser and I looked at my feedback table, 21, there it is. I haven't given any feedback yet, but it's capturing all the information. So we know now the audit record is now working, right? So let's add some quick buttons. All right, so here I want to add a create button. Create button. I don't want to start a new row. Don't want to start a new row. All right, this one is called good, and we're just going to call it good. This one is going to be called bad and bad. And instead of text, I actually want an icon. And the good icon is this. We'll make this an icon. The bad icon, or thumbs down, is that. And then we need to add just two quick processes to run each one. Now, again, there's lots of other ways you can do this. Good, feedback. We tie it to the good button. We grab the update. Update select AI feedback. Feedback equals good based on that ID that we just returned. Right? And I'm going to do this again. I'm going to say copy Okay, going to duplicate this. We'll call this bad, bad, and then we want to make sure this one's tied to the bad button. Save and run that, just make sure it works, and then we're almost done. Okay, let's just do a thumbs up. So remember, it's still on this audit 21. I'm going to thumbs up it. Let's go look at refresh my data. 21, it's been updated to good. Super simple. Now, of course, you could do things that as soon as they update it, these fall away. And then I'm just going to make this look a little bit nicer with these buttons. I'm going to come here. I'm going to create a region right there. I'm going to make this a button container. And then I'm going to actually put all three of those buttons in there. And I'm just going to remove the UI. And I'm just going to change this UI to not collapse, to so there we go. Oh, let me just do the new, don't start new row. And we're going to hide the audit. So that should now be a hidden field. And we don't want the value protected. There we go. So now you have a little mechanism for upping and downing it. Now, took a little longer than I thought, so I'm not going to be able to get through the rest of this today because I want to leave a little room for questions and to talk about the Code Innovate program. But just to give you a sense of what I wasn't able to cover, but will be available for download, is if I come back in here, it timed me out. This is the original app that we went through. The only thing I didn't get to show you, which only takes a couple more minutes to build, is the review profile. Because remember, in the run profile, we had the ability to thumbs up and thumbs down, but you use that data to be able to say, all right, let's look at the feedback counts. If they're good, who's doing it? Let's get a listing of all of the values that were in the results. And that's all coming from this table, right? So those three charts, the classic report and the two charts, they're just coming from this table. So very easy to set up. And there you go. I almost got it done. But this is an easy way to manage, create, manage, run, and of course, review your Select AI profiles. So I want to wrap it up there today, and I want to pass it on over to Sean to talk a little bit about the Code Innovate program that we offer here.
Well, thank you, Pete, very much for the presentation. First and foremost, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for taking some time out of your day to attend our presentation and the demonstration. I'm sure this was a lot of information to take in, and I encourage you all to go back to the recording at your own pace, to review the content, because there's definitely a lot. And as Pete said, he couldn't even get to all of it within the hour. So if you have any questions, please keep using the Q&A as I'm going through my presentation. But yeah, I just encourage you guys to, review it at your own pace. So my name is Sean Cartwright. I'm a senior cloud engineer and a program manager here at the Oracle Code Innovate program. And I want to tell you a little bit about a program that Pete, Shane, and I have worked with for many years now. So the way I like to go about explaining Code Innovate is by relating it to an activity that our director would do most every year with his kids when they were a little bit younger. He would take his kids on a trip to Legoland. This one happens to be near Chicago in Illinois. Out of all the attractions and activities at Legoland, their favorite thing to do was to participate in something called the Lego Master Builder class. So during this class, all the kids were given their own clear plastic bag of disassembled Lego pieces without any instructions, much like you typically find in Lego sets that you buy in the stores. So the adults in the front of the room, pictured in the top right-hand corner, are with green shirts on, were known as true Lego master builders. Over the course of the event, they work with these kids with the kids on the concept of brick interlocking and how to create smooth faces on objects using Lego pieces. And on this particular day, they learned to build these little penguins with earmuffs. So the goal of the class was first and foremost for these kids to have fun. However, in a very short amount of time, they learned to build with Legos in a creative environment using techniques that they were taught by true experts. I tell this story because in its simplest form, that's what we're trying to emulate here at the Virtual Code Innovate program. So Code Innovate is a 5-day online event designed to educate builders like yourselves on Oracle Cloud while producing a first pass prototype on customer selected business challenges. Over the course of a 20-hour half week, so it's 20-hour week, participants from your teams are paired with an Oracle engineer like Pete, like Shane, like myself, to guide you through best practices on the Oracle services and tools that you're going to be developing with. During this time, you're going to brainstorm on the business challenge that you've brought to us, identify the critical pieces that need to be built that week, and partner with us to develop a minimally viable product or an MVP. We also call this a first pass prototype. Whether you're novices in Oracle Cloud or you're pros and have used a lot of our services, Code Innovate is all about building real solutions that for your organization's most pressing business challenges. That's what we try to do. Something I'd like to call out here throughout this process is that although today we focus on the latest features of like 23AI, Oracle Autonomous Database, Select AI, that's not the only service or the topics that we can cover in events. We support many facets of the Oracle Cloud Data Platform, including Apex builds and autonomous database features like machine learning, property graph, spatial, vector, and other search techniques. We cover OCI Cloud Native and infrastructure services and technologies like Oracle Kubernetes Engine, functions, Jenkins, Liquibase, container registry, DevOps service, Terraform, all of those sorts of things. And, this isn't an exhaustive list, but I just want to emphasize that there are many things that we do cover. We support other platform services like Oracle Analytics Cloud, document understanding use cases, Oracle Digital Assistant, which is our chatbot platform, Oracle Integration Cloud suite of services, including Visual Builder Studio, which is a CI/CD tool, Visual Builder Cloud Service, which is another front-end application similar to Apex, robotic process automation, and many other things. So most times our use cases involve multiple services that comprise the entire prototype solution. I make this point because oftentimes, as I said, webinars cover on, host are on a single product or topic, but our team is capable of resourcing specialists, to help with all those different needs that you might have. And each of these use cases are tailor built, custom built to your specific use case. Once we've agreed on a suitable use case through a discovery call, we will determine an event week. Once established, we will work towards that event week. We'll help you with any tenancy configuration, which may include tasks like provisioning those services, setting up users, connecting to data sources, minimal networking, things of that nature, just to establish a baseline for the use case itself. We offer what we call structured learnings, which are essentially training demos of the service or services that will be utilized throughout the event. Since many customers may be new to Oracle services, this is a great opportunity for participants to get some exposure to the tools they will be developing in. And then we have the event. So the basic guidelines that we have for an event. Number one, we ask you to bring your use cases because we want to work on things that you want to work on. We just have to mutually agree on whether or not the use case is suitable. In the spirit of true collaboration, it's important that we assign the correct engineers on our side with the skill sets needed to work with those requisite OCI services. And it's important that your team provides the resources knowledgeable about your data models, business processes, and systems that our products will be interfacing with or augmenting. We go back internally and ensure that we have those skill sets on those requisite technologies to solve the problem. And then, we ask the question, can we fulfill the requirements in those 20 hours? I should mention that we support multiple use cases or teams during a single event. The ratio by which we staff those is typically 4 customer engineers or attendees to 1 Oracle engineer. This allows everyone to get more time to get hands-on and learn to build in the various Oracle services we will be using. The only caveat is that we have to have enough runway and resource availability to staff the use case builds. Our events typically run Monday through Friday for 4 hours a day and typically accommodate sessions between the hours of 8 to 5 p.m. Eastern. We ask for 4 or more developers, analysts, or associated technical skill sets or business skill sets, and no prior knowledge on Oracle services is needed, depending on the complexity and the technicality of the use case, I would say. but we ask for at least 4 builders. We usually need about 3 weeks of lead time to run the event. That just ensures that we have the right resourcing on our side and that you do. It's not that we don't meet for those 3 to 4 weeks or so based on our calendar when we can get you in. We have formal cadence meetings at least once per week for 30 minutes, and that just helps us to discover, to get all the logistics for the event pinned down and all that sort of thing. Last but not least, there is no fee to do the event beyond the time commitment for both of our teams and the cost of the cloud services that we use to build out the use cases. Typically, we do our builds in our customers' tenancies, Oracle tenancies, in a development compartment. This allows you to easily retain all of the work that you have done without needing to do a migration, anything, afterward or anything like that. And I just want to make a note that our program currently only supports customers that have accounts here in North America, which is US and Canadian customers. We do work with offshore teams, but the lead has to come through, a US based account. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time. Please see us at this email address here. If this program sounds like something you'd be interested in exploring, there's several ways to get in touch with us. The email address here, which is codeinnovate_us_grp@oracle.com. You can add your name and email address into the Q&A, or if you know your Oracle account manager, your cloud platform representative, or your cloud architect, and reach out to them and they can get through to us. So that's all. Thank you very much for your time.